A state in America where endless highways stretch for miles. Hundreds of miles of desert landscapes, dense forests, and small towns, where the streets become completely empty after dark. But according to the locals, humans aren't the only ones who roam the nights of Texas. There's something else that comes out when darkness falls. Things that the people who have seen them can never forget. In today's video, I'm going to tell you 12 true Texas horror stories, so terrifying that after hearing them, you might not have the courage to turn off the lights tonight. So buckle up, keep your room lights on, and get ready, because our first story begins on a deserted highway, where a truck driver saw something that changed his life forever. Story 1. The year was 2018. It was a cold and dark Texas night. The sky was covered with clouds, and there wasn't another vehicle in sight on Highway 281. A truck driver named Robert was hauling a load toward San Antonio. He had been driving this route for years, so lonely roads never bothered him. But that night, something felt different. The radio kept shutting off by itself. His phone had no signal. And strangely enough, there wasn't a single animal on the road, as if the entire area had suddenly become empty. Around 2:00 in the morning, he noticed a woman standing on the side of the highway. A white dress, long black hair, and her head hanging down. Robert assumed she might be in trouble, so he slowed the truck down. But as he got closer, he realized something wasn't right. The woman wasn't moving at all. The wind was blowing hard, but even her hair wasn't moving. Robert rolled down his window and called out, "Ma'ams, do you need any help?" No response. He asked again. Still no response. Then, the woman slowly turned toward him. And in that instant, the blood in Robert's body seemed to freeze, because there was nothing on her face. No eyes. No nose. No mouth. Just a flat black surface. Terrified, Robert jumped back into the truck and sped away as fast as he could. His heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it might burst through his chest. A few minutes later, he finally started to calm down. But then, he glanced into his rearview mirror. And there she was, standing directly behind the truck, even though the truck was moving at nearly 60 miles per hour. It was impossible. Robert looked again in panic. The road behind him was completely empty. But in the mirror, the woman was still there. And this time, she was smiling. Story 2. The town was small. So small that most people driving through Texas had never even heard of it. Just a few houses, a church, a diner, and an old gas station sitting on the edge of town. The gas station had been abandoned for more than 20 years. Its windows were broken. The pumps were covered in rust, and weeds had grown through the cracks in the concrete. Locals avoided the place, especially after dark. According to the stories, something was still inside, something that never left. Most people dismissed those stories as local legends, including 3 friends, Jake, Ethan, and Marcus. They were amateur paranormal investigators, and they loved exploring abandoned places. When they heard the rumors about the gas station, they decided to spend a night there and record everything. Around 11:30 p.m., they arrived with cameras, flashlights, and enough confidence to laugh at the town's ghost stories. As they stepped inside, the air felt strangely cold. The temperature outside was warm, but inside the station, it felt almost freezing. Jake joked, "Looks like the ghost forgot to pay the heating bill." The others laughed. At first, everything seemed normal. Dust covered every surface. Old advertisements still hung on the walls. A broken cash register sat behind the counter, and decades of neglect could be seen everywhere. Then Marcus noticed something strange. There were footprints in the dust. Fresh footprints, leading from the front door toward the back storage room. The problem was, nobody had entered before them. They followed the footprints, but halfway down the hallway, The prints suddenly stopped, as if whoever made them had simply vanished. For a moment, nobody said anything. The atmosphere had changed. The building no longer felt empty. It felt occupied. Jake tried to shake off the feeling. Probably raccoons, he said. But even he didn't sound convinced. A few minutes later, Ethan was filming near the old refrigerators when he heard a noise. A soft metallic clank, like someone dropping a tool. The sound came from behind him. He turned around immediately. Nothing. The room was empty. Then another sound echoed through the building. This time from upstairs. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. Thumpy. 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 The three friends froze. The building didn't even have a second floor. The footsteps continued, moving across a ceiling that shouldn't have existed. Marcus nervously laughed. Tell me you guys hear that too. Neither of them answered. Because they did. The footsteps suddenly stopped. The silence that followed felt even worse. Then every flashlight flickered at the same time. Once. Twice. 3 times. And then, darkness. The flashlights went completely dead. Jake cursed as he smacked his flashlight against his hand. Nothing. Fresh batteries. Still dead. For several terrifying seconds. The building was completely black. Then Ethan switched on the night vision mode of his camera. The green glow illuminated the room. And what he saw nearly made him scream. Standing at the end of the hallway was a man. Tall. Thin. Wearing what looked like an old gas station uniform. His face was pale. His eyes looked completely black. And he wasn't moving. Just staring. Watching them. Jake pointed his camera toward the figure. Who's there? No response. The man remained perfectly still. Then, without taking a single step, he appeared closer. Not walking. Not running. Just suddenly closer. As if reality itself had skipped a frame. Marcus backed away. His breathing became faster. Guys. We need to leave. Nobody argued. The three friends turned and rushed toward the front entrance. But when they reached the door, it wouldn't open. They pulled. Pushed. Kicked. Nothing. It felt as though someone was holding it shut from the outside. Then came a sound from behind them. A voice. Low and raspy. So, you came back. The words echoed through the building. The friends spun around. Nobody was there. But the voice came again. Closer this time. So, you came back. Marcus started panicking. I don't like this. Suddenly every camera screen filled with static. The audio exploded with loud interference. And for a brief moment, a horrifying face appeared on Jake's monitor. Sunken eyes, rotting skin, and a twisted grin stretching across its face. Then the screen went black. At that exact moment, the front door burst open by itself. The three friends didn't wait. They ran. As fast as they could. They jumped into their truck and sped away from the gas station. None of them spoke during the drive home. The next day, they reviewed the footage. Most of it was corrupted. Hours of recordings had disappeared. But one clip survived. Just 27 seconds long. In the video, the hallway appeared empty. No figure. No movement. Nothing unusual. Then a voice could clearly be heard. A voice none of them recognized. It whispered, "Don't come back." Immediately after that, a man appeared on screen, standing inches from the camera. His face filled the frame, his eyes staring directly into the lens. Then the footage ended. The three friends uploaded the video online. Within days, people from the town began contacting them. One elderly resident told them a story. Back in the late 1980s, a gas station employee had been murdered during a robbery. The killer was never found. According to local rumors, the employee never left the building. And anyone who stayed there after midnight eventually saw him. Jake, Ethan, and Marcus never returned to that gas station. And years later, they still refused to watch the footage again. Because they all noticed something that nobody saw the first time. During the final frame of the video, the figure wasn't standing in front of the camera. He was standing behind it. Which meant, whatever appeared on the screen wasn't the thing they should have been afraid of. Story 3. Deep in East Texas, there is a forest that locals rarely talk about after dark. During the day, it looks like any other forest. Tall pine trees, narrow dirt trails, birds singing in the distance, and sunlight filtering through the branches. But at night, everything changes. The forest becomes unnaturally quiet. No birds, no insects, no animal sounds, just silence. And according to local legends, if you stay there long enough, the forest starts whispering your name. Most people laughed at the story, including a 21-year-old college student named James. James loved hiking and camping. He didn't believe in ghosts, spirits, or supernatural creatures. To him, every scary story had a logical explanation. So when his friends suggested a weekend camping trip to the forest, he agreed immediately. There were 4 of them: James, Ryan, Tyler, and Chris. They arrived late in the afternoon. The forest seemed completely normal. They set up their tents near a clearing, built a small campfire, and spent the evening talking and laughing. As darkness settled over the trees, the atmosphere slowly began to change. The woods felt heavier somehow. The air felt colder, and the silence became noticeable. Ryan looked around. "Have you guys noticed something?" "What?" Tyler asked. "There aren't any sounds." Everyone stopped talking for a moment. Ryan was right. There were no crickets, no owls, no wind, nothing. The forest was completely silent. James shrugged. It's probably normal. But deep down, even he felt uncomfortable. Around midnight, the campfire burned low. One by one, everyone went asleep. The forest disappeared into darkness. For a few hours, nothing happened. Then, at exactly 2:47 a.m., James woke up. At first, he didn't know why. Everything seemed normal. Then he heard it. A voice. Soft. Distant. Barely louder than a whisper. "James." He sat up immediately. His heart skipped a beat. The voice sounded like it came from somewhere deep in the forest. He listened carefully. Silence. Then again. "James." This time it was clearer. Someone was calling his name. James assumed one of his friends was messing with him. He unzipped his tent. The campsite was dark. The fire had almost died. Ryan, Tyler, and Chris were all asleep. James frowned. Then who had called his name? A few seconds later, the whisper returned. "James." The sound came from between the trees. Farther away. Waiting. James grabbed a flashlight. Curiosity began replacing fear. Slowly, he stepped into the woods. The beam of light cut through the darkness. Tree after tree passed by. The whisper continued. Always ahead of him. Never getting closer. "James. Come here." His stomach tightened. Something about the voice felt wrong. It sounded human, yet not human at the same time. Like multiple voices speaking together. James stopped walking. Suddenly, he realized something. He couldn't see the campsite anymore. The trees surrounded him from every direction. The trail had vanished. He was lost. Panic began creeping into his mind. Then he heard another sound. Footsteps. Behind him. Crunch. 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 Slow footsteps moving through the leaves. James spun around. His flashlight swept across the trees. Nothing. No one was there. The footsteps stopped. The silence returned. James took a deep breath. "Who's there?" he shouted. No answer. Then, directly beside his ear, a whisper. "Don't turn around." James froze. Every muscle in his body locked up. The voice had been impossibly close. Close enough to feel. But there was nobody there. His flashlight shook violently in his hand. Then the footsteps started again. This time, circling him. Crunch. 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 Around and around. Always just outside the beam of light. James tried to stay calm. He turned slowly. The flashlight swept through the darkness. For a split second, he saw a figure standing between the trees. Tall. Thin. Completely motionless. Its body looked wrong. Its arms hung too low. Its head tilted unnaturally to one side. James blinked. The figure disappeared. The woods were empty again. His breathing became faster. He knew he needed to get back. Now, he turned and began walking. Then running. Branches snapped around him. Tree roots caught his feet. The whispers followed him. Hundreds of voices now. All speaking at once. All repeating his name. James. 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 The sound came from every direction. Above him. Behind him. Beside him. The forest itself seemed alive. James ran harder. Then suddenly, he reached another clearing. Relief flooded through him. Until he looked around. It wasn't his campsite. It was somewhere else. A place he had never seen before. In the center of the clearing stood an old wooden chair. Nothing else. Just a single chair. Waiting. James slowly backed away. Then he noticed something carved into the wood. A name. His name. James. His blood turned cold. Before he could react, a loud scream erupted from the forest. A scream so horrifying, so full of pain, that it seemed impossible for any human being to make it. James dropped his flashlight. Darkness swallowed the clearing. And then, something moved between the trees. Not one thing. Several things. Tall shadows. Watching him. Getting closer. James tried to run. But his legs gave out beneath him. The last thing he remembered was seeing dozens of pale eyes staring at him from the darkness. Then everything went black. The next morning, Ryan, Tyler, and Chris woke up to find James missing. At first they thought he had gone for a walk. But hours passed, and there was still no sign of him. They called for help. Search teams arrived. Police searched the forest. By late afternoon, they finally found him. Nearly 5 miles away from the campsite. Lying unconscious in a clearing. When James woke up in the hospital, he couldn't explain what had happened. Large chunks of the night were missing from his memory. Doctors believed he had become disoriented and wandered off. But James knew that wasn't true. Because of what they found in his pocket. A small piece of wood. Old. Weathered. Broken from something larger. And carved into the surface was a single word. Stay. James never returned to that forest. Years later, he still refuses to talk about that night. And according to locals, the whispers are still there, waiting among the trees, calling out to anyone foolish enough to listen. Because once the forest learns your name, it never forgets it. So, what do you think really happened to Robert on Highway 281? Who or what was waiting inside that abandoned gas station? And what was calling James deeper into the forest that night? Maybe these were just stories. Maybe they were misunderstandings. Or maybe there are places in Texas where some things still refuse to leave. Places where shadows watch from the darkness. Where forgotten spirits still wander abandoned roads. And where the forest remembers every name it hears. But the most terrifying thought of all is that somewhere out there, someone might be experiencing one of these nightmares right now. So the next time you're driving alone on a deserted highway, exploring an abandoned building, or walking through a silent forest after dark, pay attention. Because sometimes, the things you don't see are the things you should fear the most. Face Evergreen Articulated Ghost. #studio engagement. Now tell me, which story terrified you the most? Story 1, the woman on Highway 281. Story 2, the abandoned gas station. Or Story 3, the whispering forest. Comment your answer below. And if you've ever experienced something strange, unexplained, or paranormal yourself, share your story in the comments. Who knows? It might be featured in a future video. #fire subscribe CTA. If you enjoyed these Texas horror stories, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next nightmare. Because next time, we're bringing you even more terrifying true horror stories that will make you think twice before turning off the lights. Until then, stay safe, stay alert, and remember, some stories end when they're told, but some nightmares never really end. Good night, Smiling Crescent.